I'll start with where we were last summer and then through January. So the New York State Legislature enacted Public Service Law Article 10. And Public Service Law Article 10 creates what's called the New York State Board on Siting, and that is the entity that gave out a certificate in January. What that looks at is the issues of the environmental compatibility of all the facilities that the company wants to build and the need or the necessity for that project to be built. Because it's a wholesale energy project, they don't look at if there's a hole in the reliability or anything like that. They just look at whether the company can perform and produce electricity to basically put into the market. It also looks at all the environmental compatibility issues and several issues like sound and shadow flicker. Those are all the issues we decided with the siting board back in January. What we're here for tonight is the Public Service Commission only. So the New York State Siting Board gets input from a lot of state agencies, including the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Department of Health, NYSERDA, the New York State Electric and Research Development Authority, it's the Economic Development Corporation. So all those agencies are involved in the siting board. What happened was when the siting board gave out its certificate in January, it said, we're giving you the certificate, we're finding that the project is compatible with the environment with all of these different stipulations and requirements that they put on the certificate. But you still need to get certain permits. So just like the company will have to get construction permits and local permits for building the facility, it also needs to get a permit from the Public Service Commission to be able to perform as an electric corporation in New York State. To do that, it has to prove that it's economically viable, that it can survive the economic climate, and that it can finance the construction. And that's basically the whole reason we're here tonight, is just for that small part of it, is to look at the economic viability of Cassadaga Wind LLC and to look at whether they can obtain financing to build the wind project.
Was that ever resolved?
Yes, so that was part of the January order that came out from the siting board, and what I had recommended in my recommended decision back in November was very much in line with what DEC had recommended in terms of the cut-in speeds for the blades and things like that. That was all based on the fact that DEC felt that there wasn't a good strategy plan involved in the case when we had the litigation back in July, August of last year. So what the siting board said is, well, what we'll do is we'll allow the company to go back and put that strategy plan together, and it should be a conservation plan, a net benefit conservation plan, so that if they can come back and demonstrate that the company is putting in conservation projects that will result in a net increase to the bat populations, then they don't need to be restricted by these very strict guidelines that I had recommended in the recommended decision. Otherwise, if they can't come up with a strategy conservation plan that meets those that goal, then they will be still bound by those restrictions.
They did resolve?
I have not heard whether the bird and bat conservation plan has been filed yet. Well, there's a lot of material that was submitted in this case that goes to parent corporation entities for Cassadaga Wind LLC, for EverPower, and the companies that have been operating and applied for the certificate. That's actually why we're here tonight, and that's what this case is looking into. And so I am not allowed to comment on what any of the findings are yet until we get all the information before us.
Will Cassadaga Wind be here to comment?
They are here right now. I believe the attorney and the representatives from EverPower just arrived.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot for taking
Very
so
welcome.
much time. Appreciate it.